recording started.
As everyone recalls, these are public meetings, which are why they are being recorded and made available for the minutes and that to the public. With that, welcome everybody to our quarterly meeting. And do we have any guests or feedback or input from the public that anyone is aware of? And I am making the assumption that everybody else is actually staff. And so with that, we want to do a quick round of introductions, being that we have a number of folks who I don't think have been here before. And with that, something you enjoyed this summer as part of that check-in piece. Whoever would like to start.
I'll go. Tara Cleland, I'm with East County Resolutions, fighting a bit of a sinus infection, so my camera's off. I'll save you all from the tissue blowing. And something, I'm sorry, Brian, was it something that we...
Something you did fun this summer that you wanted to share?
Oh boy. So this summer was kind of boring. We had a big 4th of July up at Ocean Shores in Washington with family. That was
Okay.
fun.
And you can pass it to whoever you want.
I'll pass it to Ken.
Oh, thanks so much. I'm Ken Pryor with the NMCRC, and this summer, gosh, it was pretty non-eventful, to be honest. Had a visit from my daughter in Long Beach and her daughter, so that was fun. Other than that, nothing really earth-shattering. And I'll pass it to Carrie.
Good morning, I'm Carrie Hodai with OHCS. I'm the program manager for the Manufactured Home Replacement Program. Something I did this summer that was fun. I did a big family camping trip with my sisters and their husbands and kids up at Crescent Lake in sort of South Central Oregon. It was really fun because we had really great weather. I'll pass it to Keeble.
Good morning, Keeble Giscombe, Director of Home Ownership. Wow, I don't think I did anything this summer. Work? Oh yeah, I went to the Marion County Fair for one day. I did that for the summer. Yeah, I went to the fair. I'll pass it to Rick.
Rick said he might be having work done in his house.
I'll go to James then. I'll pass it to James.
Hello all, my name is James Kwasnick. I'm a communications coordinator supporting the homeownership division. I use he, him pronouns, and I didn't take any big trips this summer, but I took a few long weekends to the coast and to Sun River. And I will pass it to Angela.
Hi, everybody. I'm Angela Garvin, and I am the president of OSTA and also founder of Floating Home Owners. And so I represent tenants in parks and marinas. And I started a new business last year, so I really worked all summer. But the one fun thing I recall is that I went to my best friend's 30th wedding anniversary, which is a big deal. And she lives out in the woods in Washington, and one of the guests' cars went into a ravine on the way to the party, right inside the property line. So we had fun with a tow truck driver named Steve, and we all had kazoos and we serenaded him, and we played Name That Tune with our TV shows growing up while we waited for the tow truck to pull out the guests. So it was really kind of fun.
What's your business that you started?
I'm an interior designer. I've been an interior designer for over a decade. And so we just opened up a retail showroom of modern kitchen design and technology in Portland.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll pass it to Rick.
What am I doing? Sorry, I just got back. I had a roofer out giving us some estimates. So am I introducing myself? Is that what I'm doing?
Yeah, and something.
Oh,
fun
hello.
you did this
Okay.
summer.
What's that?
It's something you did fun this summer.
Oh, Montana seems to be the place I go right now. My brother bought a cherry ranch in Flathead Lake in Montana, and so I go there and do work out there. We gutted his house, redid it. So other than, well, that's the fun stuff because this is all we do all day, right? Just typing. And so labor sounds really good. But I'm the assistant director for manufactured housing and MMCRC. So welcome everyone. And but yeah, that's the summer. I then went to California to see family. That's where most of my family lives, in near San Diego. So those are the two things that I consider fun. And I'm not sure who's next, so please feel free to volunteer.
Jan hasn't gone. You still don't have audio, Jan. Still not
He's on
hearing you. Heather, you want to jump in?
I'll jump in. So I'm actually going on vacation on the 14th to the beach, and I'm excited about that for a week. So I haven't been out for a while and stayed out at the beach, been out for a day. This summer, Par Acres had its annual barbecue again. We haven't had it for 3 years because of COVID. And there was high excitement about it, big turnout, lots of happy people, lots of conversation. And it just was really enjoyable and nice to do something that has been so utterly normal. Do it again. Everybody was pleased with it. So it's a lot of work, and you think about the work, and then when it's happening and you have all these smiling faces and people were so polite waiting their turn, it was very enjoyable. That's it.
Whoever you want to pass to.
Well, the people I see, I think, have spoken. I mean, without me going into my little arrow here. So,
Heather's waving.
Heather, okay.
I'm Heather. I'm with Neighbor to Neighbor. I do mediation in Lynn, Benton, and Marion counties. And I got to hold my youngest grandson on his first day of his life here. And so that was probably the biggest highlight of my summer.
And Jan, you want to give it another try there? Okay,
He always has a
okay.
bad connection.
He'll get to that. And so anyways, I'm Brian. I'm with Resolve, the Center for Dispute Resolution and Restorative Justice down in Southern Oregon, and co-chair this committee with Tara. And my fun is I also had a grandson who was born on the 29th, and the significance of that is my wife's birthday is on the 30th, and she so wanted to have Marvin born on her birthday and share it. But her daughter went to extreme measures and had a C-section on the 29th. So, and they're doing great. So with that, we can move on to minutes. Did everyone have a chance to look those over and any additions or corrections?
This moment we miss John Van Landingham, right?
Yeah, yes, and so John is out today as well as Nancy is not attending. I did,
I didn't see anything, but I did read for grammar.
and I don't know, Alexandra, if you want to glance through the legislative review piece, if you saw anything.
I did not notice anything.
Okay. That's the one that I think the most important in that. And so with that, would someone want to make a motion for approving the minutes as presented?
I motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Great. And so members, thumbs up or yes, if you approve them. Great. We have unanimous approval of the minutes. And we can move into our agenda item, and it's back to you, Alexandria, with the legislative, even though we're kind of in between before the short session. Anything?
Nothing really. We're starting to see kind of legislative concepts for short session kind of start to trickle out. Nothing on manufactured housing that I've seen so far. The legislature met for legislative days last week. This is the first one that they've had since the end of the 2023 session. No real conversations pertaining to manufactured housing, except that the Oregon Manufactured Housing Association brought out 4 model homes for legislators to come look at. So they did a single wide, a double wide, a like RV park model, kind of tiny home, and then an ADU. So there was a lot of interest in that. And I had some great conversations with manufacturers and lenders about their love for the MMCRC and a lot of kind of the OHCS and Dispute Resolution Advisory Committee related activities. So that's really all the updates that I have.
And we don't have I know we talked about this earlier, the report that
will be due next year.
So we don't have to do it in 24, correct?
So
it's that odd even year thing and I can never remember.
It goes out in even years.
Okay.
Is my recollection. But it was not this year. That's what I know.
And so does that get presented at the short session then?
So typically, because it's a report that's due in September, if its due date is September 15th of even numbered years.
Okay.
So typically it would not, unless there's a request for it to be presented at September legislative days, typically there's not any kind of like big fanfare presentation on it.
Great. Just wanted to make sure there wasn't going to be a surprise project for everybody.
No surprises.
And with that, we can move on to discussions, and I don't know how far we'll get on it. At the last meeting, we had started to talk about spending some time at a meeting, and John was going to kind of lead that discussion as far as potential statutory changes, not for the short session, but for the next full session. Being that, and had asked, and it's more, I think I will give it as a reminder to read through the legislative current, and if there are ideas or things that you notice, would be a helpful one, and one for me would like to find a way to align better what is the community committee of residents, old legislative piece with the mandatory, the tenants committee, which is under the tenants committee with the mediation, because those were not, there seems to be some confusion around if a tenants committee and the aligning with that statutory requirement and the whole mediation piece would be the only one I would have up for discussion. But if people have those, what I think I'll ask is if we can gather those and send them to Shauna, I don't know if it would be you or someone to kind of just coordinate and kind of make a list and see where we're at. And being that we're meeting quarterly, our next meeting would be in January.
Yes.
For that January, so say by December, mid-December or early December, if we could do that as a group and see where we're at, if there are any. Yeah, Heather.
Would that be where we would talk about adding language about or clarifying when a case comes to us, we look at it and we know it fits mandatory. Somebody else might look at it and know it fits mandatory, but nobody's used that word, and how that goes about, or is that administrative in here?
I think that was kind of one of the pieces, if there needed to be some clarity, being that I know from what I recall of the minutes and looking through them, that's the area where there's the most confusion. And my thinking through is if it's making it more complex, because if it is, they just need to attempt it, or if there's other things that need to get, I think, added, or just how that whole piece flows. Because hard part is once people are in mediation, they can talk about it, whatever topics they wish. And so just because a topic is not on that list, it doesn't mean they can't bring it up if parties all agree. And the great part is with mediation being confidential, we necessarily wouldn't know that, but it's how we can best share that without getting too deep. And I know in a little bit, Ken's going to talk about, he's been working on a process to help get him the information when we do end up closing a case without so that they can get out those letters to folks to say we weren't able to schedule it, or we did schedule it, and here's your letter that says, yep, you met and have met that requirement.
So it's not going out yet.
I know, Ken, you had shared with me the copy of the letter that goes out, and it was that letter we worked on a year ago, or actually maybe 2 years ago, to have that would get mailed out to parties so that they had something to present to if it ended up in court to say, yep, they did comply, or maybe they didn't, and here's.
Correct. The thing that I blew and didn't come up in our discussion of that sort of a best practices document that you're talking about that we developed 2 years ago or whatever, was a short form to allow the CDRCs to notify us immediately without going into the long form version of reporting and whatever it is. Where's Stefan? I always forget what it's called. But yeah, that is something I've got to get on to. It's a pretty straightforward thing, and I forgot about it, and it just didn't come up in discussion. when we were talking about giving a review of our best practices.
Yeah, as well as that clarity of what information we need to, as a CDRC, need to just get to you, and how we do that. If it's it gets emailed to some mailbox or that, and what, I'm guessing you need parties' names and addresses and
It's all
email
this-
when it's
yeah,
available.
but we don't need a lot of detail, basically. So we have an idea what that should look like.
So to date, no letter has gone out.
We haven't sent any letters out, and according to the stats that we have from Stefan, there have been about, in the last almost 18, 19 months, there have been a total of 22 denials. But that's for, about an 18-month period. And that's, all things considered, it's about 4%. So we're in pretty good shape there in terms of people participating.
Great, so any
Brian,
action
I
step? Oh, go ahead, Angela.
I just have a question. Can we get a little more clarity on what we're supposed to be emailing, what questions we're supposed to be emailing specifically?
I apologize for my vagueness, because I know it was John who brought it up. What he was encouraging us to do is carve out a chunk, and I thought was going to be at this meeting, to say, hey, is what we've noticed as members within the current statutes, to say, oh, it might be helpful if they could amend the statute to have this, or.
Okay, great, because that's what I was thinking you were saying. So one of the things from a couple years ago or last year or whenever it was, is that the statute says that I believe committees of 7 can request mandatory mediation. Well, if a committee of 7 is representing 50 tenants, right, but there's only 7 members, and they request this mediation, and the landlord says no, who gets the free rent? All 50 tenants or the 7? So that would definitely be, I think that was one of my questions that I brought up a while ago, just some clarity on how exactly that works when a committee of 7 is involved, because the committee of 7 isn't a single entity, it is a group. And then who is on that Zoom? All 50 tenants, or 7, or 1? Like, how does that work exactly, and what's reasonable?
Yeah.
So those are the questions I'm going to be sending.
No, that was the exact issue we've had, and I know I had identified, was that piece of how those two interact with each other. And my personal view is, when the mandatory mediation came, everyone had forgotten about the statutes that addressed the committees of 7. And then after the mandatory mediation came out, it started coming up, and it's like, okay, these two don't quite align with each other.
All right, thanks.
And so with that, we'll move that ahead to the January meeting, and have that with that recommendation that if people can get that into China, so it can get forwarded and distributed in some, we can definitely carve out a good chunk on the January agenda for that. And with that, we can move on to rec. And one of the issues is to share out with the committee is that Resolutions Northwest, which was one of the CDRCs that received the state and participated in this general state grant funding as a CDRC, has not renewed. And they were serving a large portion of all of the city of Portland. I'll let Tara, because they used to share it on, or Rick, if you want to explain what their service area was, and what you want to share out.
It's mainly Portland, excuse me, Portland metro area, and So I did send out an email to everyone that was surrounding there, just at this point, just to try to help out where we can as far as capacity wise, because we do have surrounding CDRCs, whether it's Hillsborough, Beaverton, I think Gresham is close or close enough. But right now, because they're missing, we're missing that critical piece. And I spoke with Patrick Sponsler over at U of O, and until we figure out what can be done, honestly, it's not like there's people just knocking on our door. Can I be a mediation center? And there's more to it, as you guys know, to do that. So for now, we're just asking everyone to try to fill in wherever possible until we can figure out, not just us, but between maybe Patrick could identify a mediation center that could fill that spot. So so I believe right now on our website we have to contact MMCRC, but we'll change that to contact Ken and give him his direct number so that Ken could call around to the different CDRCs, see who has capacity to possibly help these people as far as for mediation services anyway.
I updated it yesterday
Oh, you did? Okay. So
to all the ones, Yamhill, Columbia.
right. Yeah, and then Yamhill, they hadn't signed for a couple of, they're still assisting, but they just didn't sign the agreements. But they still help out and they still
Actually,
take mediation.
I don't believe it. I don't know. Heather might have some.
So Neighbor to Neighbor and your Community Mediation Center are consolidating to bring community mediation services and facilitative services to Yamhill County. This is a joint effort. We'll see the friendship and collaboration. So there, that's my statement.
Well, thank you so much.
Really?
Yes.
So
And
to clarify, you are taking over for Yamhill County? Because I update the website, so I just want to make sure.
Cannot use the word taking over. We are consolidating, and it's a collaborative effort. So we are not taking over, but yes, we will be. The future brings YCM. It may be in name, but Neighbor to Neighbor will be doing business as, at least initially, and then moving forward, the future is uncertain.
And so with that, I think she's particularly asking for that area, what to put on the MMCR website as a point of contact for the public.
So it will go to our one number, but right now what we're working on is, I think it'll be November 1st or right around there. That their number will port over and they will get a live person, and then we'll work on providing services that way.
So having that number up on the MMCR website won't be problematic. It won't be, we're sorry, the number you're calling is no longer available. It'll just auto forward to Neighbor to Neighbor.
It could. And then all of this is, I mean, there is attorneys working on this for us and helping us through this process. And so who knows, you know, like we had a time frame that we'd like to do it, which was yesterday. And then there's all this other documents and stuff like that. So
Heather, if you could, when you ever get a chance, maybe just bounce us an email so we know what, you know, is that verbiage, that way we don't get any confusion off of that. For now, we'll do you want us to change anything now or
right now they are an operating center. Officially, whether or not that's happening is not outside of our control. So the calls would go in there. I would just say that if you refer a case personally, maybe copy me in it, just so I'm aware of it. But outside of that, the services, we would like it to look as seamless as possible. So it'll still be the mediators there. It'll still be their center. We'll just be operating that center.
just keep us posted when you want to, you know, what information you want on there, and we'll get it so that we're accurate about what you want us to post.
Yeah, I think it's safe right now to leave the phone number as is. With that said, Tillamook County will be serviced by a different CDR, and I don't know what their relationship is, but services in Tillamook County would go to Hillsborough.
Okay, thank you.
In that, and this Stephen, putting you on the spot a little bit, and I think for the future, we might just add it to a standing item on our future agendas is data reporting and update. I think one of the questions we had last time from John was, he was curious how many marinas had actually had mediation requests since the statutes and pieces changed. And I don't know if you remember that.
No,
Even at the last meeting, to be honest.
I do. I definitely do remember, and that's something that I worked on. So in the new report, it's actually something that's tabulated. It's not a lot, but right now from all the centers, there's only been 16 total clients that have used our services, just 16. And it's from Lincoln County Center for Mediation and Resolution, Neighbor to Neighbor, Eastern Oregon Mediation Center in Morrow County, and Washington Beaver Center for Mediation and Dialogue. And yeah, from the data, it's mostly just standard mediation, and most of standard mediation, and then the resolution of most of the mediation, for some reason, they don't take place. Even though there's a good percentage of them where to reach a complete agreement, there's a lot reporting that they just didn't have a resolution to the mediation that they had. But that is something I worked on. It's included in the new report.
I have a question for you. How do, so you said there's 16 floating home?
No.
Oh, okay.
16 clients that report that they reside in a floating home or a marina.
Okay, and those counties were which counties?
Lincoln, Marion, Morrow, and Washington.
Huh. Super interesting. I didn't really know that there were floating homes in those counties.
So I looked at it. It looks like some of
That's
them
where
are
I was
from,
a little
lakes.
curious.
Yeah, some of them are like on lakes and stuff like that. But yeah.
Oh,
Interesting. Yeah.
okay.
So
Interesting.
Detroit, we have one in Detroit.
Okay.
This is great information to know, because no one's ever really collected all the floating home marinas. I know Ken and I have worked on this back and forth some, but there are definitely marinas out there that we don't know about. So that's fantastic.
I will clarify that the information that I have is just what's in our database. I did not like find the list of all the floating home and marinas in Oregon. It's just what has been reported to us, but still very useful information.
Great, and any issue with us adding that to our standing agenda and have you give us a quarterly update on what's the surveys are, and I guess maybe a little bit of question of what information do we want as a group? I know the one for us, because I kind of stacked the deck a little bit because I have a lot of court connected, and I think Heather may too, would be to potentially put those in two different buckets, because it is the majority of the data you're getting, yet they're not the ones that are coming in outside of someone having a subpoena saying, oh, you have to show up here. And I know that for us, that's the majority of our caseload is to help with that division. If that's
No, I have no problem with doing that. It is, I could, same way that I did it for floating home marinas, I could do that for court connected, you know.
Yeah, and what I'd be curious is how big, because we're just for me, there's that piece that we see a number of ones that should theoretically have mediated prior to showing up there. I can't do anything about that, but it's an interesting piece, as well as how well our outreach and marketing is working. And I know we have some folks here from in that area to help get the word out and help people become more aware of the services, so they're utilizing them.
Make a new tab for
Great. And sounds like it's all right if we add that as a standing item, and you can share that at being that we're down to quarterly meetings. Awesome. Meeting schedule, like I said, I think we're at quarterly meetings now, so our next one will be January. Thursday, looks like. Is the first Wednesday still good for everybody in their calendars on a quarterly schedule? I'm seeing nods. In that. And being that we're well ahead of schedule, anything for the good of the order or group that we want to talk about as a committee, or things that, Rick, you want to share out that you're working on, or goals, and how we might support or interact as a advisory committee to MMCR? And
I think the idea of getting everyone's thoughts on current statute and what they feel needs to be addressed. I think that discussion itself could, we'll say for lack of a better term, blossom, because that can get pretty interesting. But I think if everyone just takes the time and just, if anything, if we just kind of put it all just in one pile and then ferret out what's possible, with the committee of what we can move forward with that type of thing, to help us not only in the registration area but in the mediation area. And communication is a big issue of contact information is always a big issue. So things, just kind of think it all, and then we can, as a committee, regardless of how big the list is, it's just a matter of getting all these thoughts into one process so that we can move forward. That in itself helps the committee of trying to align ourselves with the centers and trying to get the information that we need when it comes to communication with the different parks and marinas. But I think just the idea of getting as much as possible sent in as far as questions and concerns, and then we can get all that presented in a meeting and go through it all as a committee and decide what's the most important thing to go after, or not so much to go after, discuss and try to move forward on. That would be my biggest thing right now.
And I guess one request maybe for the future meeting, would it be possible to have, I know John has filled that void a lot as far as now that there is a legal service contract and person who's handling that, about potentially that person coming and just introducing herself.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Also, just how, because the legal side always comes in when there's a dispute, and how we can, and now that they got the legislative change where they can do education, just, I think it would be a good topic, as well as.
That's a discussion we're actually having right there with them. I mean, because of the way our agreement is set up. I mean, that is actually a discussion of the attorney coming in and actually putting together a Zoom meeting just for mediators on what they're looking at, what their top priorities are when it comes to assistance. And so once I get an okay from them from Oregon Law Center as to what they feel comfortable doing, then well, I'll definitely let you guys know. And then but I think the great idea is to, now that we're fully engaged, is to bring her on and just at least introduce herself, share what she's working on, maybe the top things that are coming across her desk. But we'll definitely get her scheduled for the next meeting to get that done. And probably by the next meeting, we'll have an idea of when we would put, if possible, is to put together a training session just on what she's looking at, but exactly what you're talking about, Brian.
Yeah, because I think a lot of it's that education and outreach. I know, I mean, personally, a lot of the cases we're seeing are ones where it's aging park infrastructure as well as aging park owners and managers, and how they get in that conversation around, compliance and what expectations are and how to best, and they're all wanting to do the best jobs. It's just a way of approaching it, one that's focused on a resolution versus confrontation. And I think one of those big pieces that I'd like to see this committee at least recommend is something on outreach and education to owners and on-site folks down the road, so they can really, like I said, we can make good use of it and resolve a lot of the ones versus that adversarial piece. And what had been missing is, I think, is that education.
Yeah, well, definitely. We're just to kind of confirm it, we are working on that, and hopefully we'll have some type of answer for everyone as we move forward.
Great. So anything else for the good of the order or discussion or other things happening? And appreciate all the why, because it's always that one of an asset sitting on top of an asset that creates why this committee and process came to existence. And anything, Kara, as far as the ownership or any other, being that we have a lot of great staff and resources here from that wants to be added, and from
I'll just confirm that I'll send out an email with my email so everybody knows where to send their comments about statute revision. And I can even send out some of the ORSs that, are specific around manufactured housing. So.
All right.
Just wanted to come from that. Sorry to interrupt, Brent. Right.
Anything else for folks? If not, I will say we can adjourn, and we can all have an extra hour and 15 minutes in our day that we didn't think, that we told people we weren't available for. So thanks everybody, and have a great day.
Thanks, I'll stop the recording.
Thank you.